I never thought a simple grilled cheese sandwich would be the thing that broke me. But there I was, standing barefoot in my own kitchen, making lunch for a son who hadn't looked me in the eyes for weeks. No thank you. No, how are you, Mom? Just add pickles next time. Like I was a waitress he didn't tip. They say revenge stories start with anger. Mine started with exhaustion. When Andrew was born, I held him like the world might crack if I ever let go. My husband, Cliff, had just been diagnosed with heart failure back then, so I worked double shifts as a nurse, even took on private home care on weekends just to keep food on the table. Cliff passed when Andrew was 10. From that day on, I became both parents, chauffeur, math tutor, midnight fever watcher, disciplinarian, and biggest cheerleader. I sold my engagement ring to afford his braces. I skipped vacations to pay for his summer camps and AP exam fees. Every win of his was a win for both of us. That's what I used to believe. When he got married, I stepped back. I gave them the house in the city so they could start strong. I moved out to the lake house Cliff and I built when Andrew was still in high school, the one with creaky floorboards and wildflowers blooming along the edge of the porch. I made it a home again for all of them. Every Sunday dinner, every skinned knee, every late night call when the baby cried too long. I even opened a college fund for my grandson when he turned 5. $50,000. Every birthday check, tax refund, and bonus went straight into that account. Quietly, happily. Because that's what mothers do, right? We give. We give until there's nothing left, and then we find a little more to give again. I never asked for medals, just maybe a little kindness. A door held open. A cup of coffee made without me asking. How's your back, Mom? On cold mornings when the stairs ache more than they used to. But lately, the warmth in this house has faded. Andrew's tone got sharper. My daughter-in-law started calling me her instead of Mom. My grandson scrolls through his phone during dinner like I'm part of the wallpaper. Still, I stayed, because I believed love could be seen, even if it wasn't said. I didn't realize then. I was giving from a well they planned to drain dry. And they almost did. The lake wasn't even cold that day. That's what I remember most. It was warm. Unusually warm for spring. One of those rare Sundays where the breeze feels like kindness. We were having a barbecue. I had made my lemon pound cake like I always do, even though no one ever said they liked it anymore. I just assumed it was tradition, something familiar. I was standing near the edge of the dock, setting down plates, when Andrew walked up behind me. He had a beer in one hand, sunglasses pushed up on his head, and that smirk that used to charm teachers but now felt rehearsed. "Hey, Mom," he said, voice dripping with that teasing tone. "Remember when you used to swim across the lake with me on your back?" I smiled. "I haven't swam in years, Andrew, you know that." "Let's test it," he said, and shoved me. No warning, no playfulness, just hands, hard. My knees buckled, and I went over like a rag doll. The water slapped my body like stone. My shoulder screamed, old injury from helping Cliff move a dresser years ago, and my lungs screamed louder. I wasn't swimming. I was sinking. I thrashed, kicked, reached for anything, but all I saw was sky and laughter. When I finally surfaced, coughing lake water and pain, I looked toward the dock. My grandson was laughing, full belly, cruel kind of laughing. Andrew just stood there, arms folded. "You're fine, Mom. Tough old bird." No one ran toward me. No one brought a towel. My daughter-in-law didn't even blink. "She's being dramatic," she muttered, sipping wine. I don't know how I made it back to shore. Muscle memory, maybe. Or fear. But I do remember crawling up the dock, knees scraped, cardigan heavy with water. And no one, not one person, held out a hand. I stood there, drenched and humiliated. My heart didn't break. It evaporated. You know, I wonder if any of you watching right now have ever had a moment like that, where the people you gave everything to stood still, while you were fighting just to breathe. If you have, I'm so sorry. And if you haven't, I hope you never do. Because that was the moment I knew. This wasn't about a fall into the lake. It was about every ignored birthday, every sarcastic eye roll, every time my love became an inconvenience. This was the moment they finally said, without saying a word, "You don't matter here anymore." And I heard it, loud and clear. I started leaving the stove on. Not really. I just stopped correcting them when they said I did. The day after the lake incident, no one mentioned it. No apology, no check-in, not even a towel on my chair. Instead, I heard Paula whispering to Andrew in the hallway. "She's slipping, babe. She forgot to turn off the stove again." Andrew sighed loud enough for me to hear from the kitchen. "It's time we looked into full-time care. We can't keep managing this." I stood in that kitchen, pouring tea with steady hands I purposely made shake just a little, just enough to make them think they were right. Because sometimes, to hear the truth, you have to go quiet enough for their lies to echo. That week, they started watching me. Paula would follow me into rooms, checking the lights, checking the oven. My grandson, now so brave with his mockery, barely looked up from his phone when I walked by. He had already downgraded me, from grandma to background noise. I heard Andrew on the phone one night. "The house is too much for her now. We'll help her transition. She won't even know." The word transition landed like a slap. They weren't planning to help. They were planning to erase me. You see, I used to believe that if I stayed long enough, quiet enough, they'd remember who I was. The woman who sold her car so Andrew could finish college. The woman who held Paula's hand when she miscarried and wouldn't tell her own mother. The woman who stayed home to rock her grandson to sleep, even when her back ached for days after. But none of that mattered now. Not to them. I had become inconvenient. And you know what hurts more than cruelty? Indifference. I stopped trying to correct the record, stopped defending myself. I let them draw the picture they wanted. Frail old woman, fading fast, easy to push aside. Let them think it. Because deep down, I was beginning to see something clearly. The worst kind of loss isn't when you're forgotten. It's when you're still there, and no one sees you. And in this house, with my own blood under the same roof, I had never felt so invisible. I didn't sleep much that week, not because of nightmares. Those stopped a long time ago. It was clarity that kept me up. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the dock, the splash, the laughter, the stillness afterward. Not just in their bodies, but in their hearts. That deep, cold stillness people have when they've already decided you're no longer useful. One morning, I called Dorothy. She didn't ask questions, just showed up at my side door like always, holding a coffee and a folder. "It's time," she said, not bothering with small talk. "Time for what?" I asked, though part of me already knew. She slid the folder across my kitchen table. Inside was everything I had tried to forget. The deed to the lake house, the $51,000 college fund documents, still untouched. My old will, written when I still thought being a mother meant never protecting yourself from your own child. Dorothy sat down slowly. "Helen, you've given them everything, and they treat you like an afterthought, or worse, a problem." I stared at those papers, hands folded in my lap. I remembered signing that college fund for my grandson with shaking hands, so proud. I remembered baking birthday cakes while Andrew forgot the date. I remembered being told, "We've got it, Mom, just sit down," while they planned how to take my home away from me. I let it all play like a film I hadn't directed, and that's when I felt it, this shift. Not anger, not grief, just release. I didn't need them to say thank you. I didn't even need them to change. I just needed to stop giving myself to people who saw me as a burden with a bank account. Dorothy poured more coffee and looked at me gently. You're not weak, you know. You just forgot that you're allowed to stop. And I had. Somewhere along the way, I started believing that motherhood meant disappearance, that love meant silence, that being needed was the same as being valued. But it's not. That day, I picked up a pen and wrote one sentence in my journal. They will not spend the rest of their lives living off what nearly killed me. And for the first time in years, I meant it. I left before sunrise, not out of fear, not even out of sadness. I left because staying any longer would have meant giving them one more piece of me, and I was done bleeding quietly for people who kept calling it love. The night before, I packed lightly. A few sweaters, my gardening gloves, Cliff's old flannel, and the envelope Dorothy helped me prepare. Copies of the transfer deed, updated will, and a donation confirmation letter for the scholarship fund. Yes, I had given the house away. Not to Andrew, not to my grandson, but to an organization that gives shelter to women like me, women who had been used, erased, and called dramatic for surviving it. And the college fund? Gone too. Redirected to a foundation that helps first-generation students with single mothers, because those kids, they know the value of sacrifice. I didn't leave them empty-handed. I left them with what they valued most, the silence. But this time, it wasn't submission. It was my signature. I printed one final letter and left it on the kitchen table. This home was once a place of warmth. Then it became a stage for my humiliation. So I've turned it into a sanctuary again, for people who understand what it means to give without being seen. Don't call. Don't look. Just live with the echoes you created. Then I walked out the door. Dorothy was waiting in her car, engine running low like a whisper. She didn't say a word when she saw me, just nodded once, slow and steady, like we were closing a chapter together. As the car pulled away, I didn't look back. There was no movie moment, no swelling music, no tear-streaked face in the rearview mirror. Just peace, that kind that arrives not with applause, but with a decision no one sees but you. And as the lake disappeared behind the trees, I didn't feel like I was running. I felt like I was finally arriving. You see, people think revenge means fire and fury. But for women like us, the truest revenge story is walking away whole. While they sit in the silence they thought we'd never leave them in. They found out on a Thursday. Andrew showed up at the house with a realtor and a notary. Smug, sunglasses on, ready to start managing the estate. But the lock had been changed. The front yard had a new sign, mounted on bronze. This home now belongs to the Haven Foundation for Women, dedicated to mothers who gave everything and were forgotten anyway. And that's when it hit him. He hadn't just lost a house. He had lost the illusion that I would stay quiet forever. From what Dorothy told me later, Andrew was furious. Paula turned pale. And my grandson? He just stood there, jaw clenched, still thinking this was a misunderstanding that could be fixed with a phone call. But there was no number. No lawyer to argue with. No loophole. Only one letter, delivered by courier the next day. You wanted my silence, now you have it. Not as surrender, but as my boundary. I gave while it cost me everything. Now I give to those who understand what a gift really is. They tried calling Dorothy, tried the bank, tried posting cryptic messages online like I'd passed away, hoping someone would give them answers. But I wasn't gone. I was just unavailable. In Silver Pines, I started tending a little garden behind my new cottage. Nothing fancy, just stubborn flowers that bloomed late but lasted long. I spent my mornings with tea and my evenings with peace. No shouting, no footsteps stomping past me. No one asking what's for dinner without ever asking how was your day, Mom. Just the quiet kind of living that feels like breathing again. And if you're still watching, maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've poured everything into a family that forgot how to say thank you. If that's you, I hope you remember this. You don't owe them the pieces they keep stepping on. You are allowed to leave, even if they call it abandonment. And you are allowed to begin again, quietly, proudly, freely. Tell me below. Have you ever walked away from someone who thought you'd never leave? I'll be reading.